Well, whether a big talker tonight. In fact, do we have Nathan, Mike? Go ahead and give it to you, Nathan, because I don't know what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Jurnee, we're getting several reports coming in from Lonoke County, people seeing a funnel drop from the clouds and even the potential of what's known as a land spout. Now, this is not your classic tornado situation. There's not a lot of rotation in the clouds, but these storms are building their way from Monroe County into Prairie County, Lonoke County, and they're pretty much intersecting boundaries, enough rotation to produce these weak funnels that have managed to possibly reach the ground. If they do, it's going to produce winds probably 50, 60 miles per hour, and hopefully it's just over a field, but certainly gets people's attention. And a lot of people are like, why are tornado sirens not going off? Why is there no tornado warning at this time?
That's the big question right now. Should people be alarmed, and where do they need to be alarmed right now?
Well, it's primarily right now, I think it's done for the most part. I was looking at rotation on radar. It was pretty close to Highway 70 around Carlisle. And then as it advances its way closer to the city of Lonoke, it looks like it's lost that rotation. But here is the radar loop. And what you see is that thin blue line. That's the outflow boundary that came from a dying thunderstorm over into Monroe County. And there were other boundaries that were intersecting with one another. And I think that's what really flared up into this storm and did have just enough rotation to go ahead and produce that weak, brief land spout. And that's pretty much what we saw. We had several reports come in from Lonoke County. Now, the National Weather Service, they don't see any real rotation. I don't see any real rotation with this cell anymore, but I'm going to go back over to the desk here and show you what was going on when we were looking at this rotation, because it was right about once we got into just the past 30 minutes that there was a little bit of rotation. So you see that blue and red right about here. It's very weak, but it is there right around Carlisle. It looks like there was just enough rotation pretty close to Carlisle, and then as I advance this frame, it's still right there, but then it kind of fanned out and is becoming more of a gust front for the most part as it's made its way through Lonoke County. So with that said, I think the threat of a land spout or a brief tornado is pretty much over with, just because we're not seeing those boundary intersections anymore. Nonetheless, it certainly got a lot of people caught off guard, and we got a lot of videos and pictures. So thank you for sending those pictures and videos into us. If you have any more pictures, videos, 501-376-1111 is the best way to get them to us. The chance of showers and thunderstorms, I think, will continue to progress its way into Pulaski County. So just be on your guard. If you have outdoor plans in Pulaski County, this boundary is making a beeline for Pulaski County. And you see what's happening because it acts like a miniature cold front. And we could see more showers and thunderstorms start to develop here in Little Rock over the next hour or two. I'll have more in your weekend forecast coming up.
All right, Nathan, and one, go ahead, Jurnee.
Okay, yes, we have a verdict in the shooting death of 7-year-old Chloe Alexander. A jury found 22-year-old Kenyatta Lamar Daniels Jr. guilty of capital murder after a drive-by shooting outside the crowded Little Rock Zoo 4 years ago. Thanks for joining us. We know we have a lot going on right now. Have Jurnee Taylor.
And I am Rolly Hoyt. We're going to get you the latest on the weather right now. But this crime shocked the city. You've got a Pine Bluff girl with her family lined up for a busy $1-day discount at the zoo, shot and killed in a spray of bullets. And after offering rewards for Daniel's arrest after they developed him as a suspect and going through an earlier mistrial, today a new jury spoke.
Yeah, THV 11's Mike Ellison was in the courtroom and joins us live now.
Yeah, as I heard from the family, this was a long journey, a long week, a long year. This is the first time we at THV 11 have heard from her mother, Chloe Alexander's mother, Jordacia Love, since 2022. And after that verdict was read, she says, we are relieved. Now let's go through that timeline really quick, really briefly, as that's what the jury heard today from prosecutors and things like that, that this all took place as investigators looked into this case May 28th of 2022. Chloe Alexander heading to the zoo with her uncle or her cousins as well as her aunt. That's when they say the incident took place. Now, going back to what prosecutors presented this afternoon, or throughout this week really. They pointed to photos, cell phone records, and shot spotter data, even hearing from Chloe's uncle, as investigators had pointed out during the testimonies and things like that, that he was, quote, followed by a car, one that investigators say matched the one tied to Daniels, who was 18 at the time of this incident. Prosecutors also stated that they looked at this investigation, or they looked at these sources, while the defense argued there was no direct evidence identifying him as the shooter. And after more than 3 hours of deliberation, after a few days of hearing from those testimonies, they came up with that verdict. He now faces life in prison, plus 55 years, found guilty on 1 count of capital murder, multiple counts of terroristic acts, and 1 count of fleeing. I also got a chance to speak to his mother, who declined to interview with us at this time. And I asked prosecutors as well as the defense attorney if there are any next steps. They said none at this time. Live in Little Rock, Maya Ellison, THV 11 News.
All right, Maya, thank you. Well, days after the Supreme Court upheld a block on an execution by nitrogen hypoxia in Alabama, the Arkansas-based critic of the method returned home to urge lawmakers here to reconsider its use.
THV 11's Tanya Motorzitsky reports on the momentum those critics picked up this week.
Alabama is the first state in the nation to allow death by nitrogen, but Arkansas lawmakers approved the same method last year. North Little Rock native Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood, the founder of Execution Intervention Project, he was a witness for 2 of Alabama's nitrogen executions and explains a process he calls torturous.
Eyes bulged out, the muscles and tendons in his neck began to strain and bulge out. He began to heave back and forth, and once again was hitting his face in the front of the mask, trying to breathe over and over and over again. This lasted for 18 minutes.
Earlier this week, a federal appeals court and a district judge found Alabama's protocol likely violates constitutional protections in the case of Jeffrey Lee.
This method is cruel, it is unusual, it violates the 8th Amendment.
When the U.S. Supreme Court declined to intervene in Alabama's request, it opened the door to challenge the method in other states like Arkansas.
I will do everything that I can to make sure that a nitrogen execution does not happen in this state.
Jeff LeMaster with Attorney General Tim Griffin's office responded with a statement that reads in part, "We agree with Alabama that death by nitrogen hypoxia is not cruel and unusual. And the Arkansas Department of Corrections tells me the protocol of executions is confidential and sent me this picture inside the room and says currently no death row inmates are scheduled for nitrogen execution." While Governor Sanders' office says she will be thoughtful and deliberative with each individual case as she works to hold criminals accountable. In Little Rock, Tanya Motorzitsky, THV 11 News.
All right, Tanya, a lot of moving parts there for sure.
Yeah, Arkansas hasn't carried out an execution since 2017. That's when 4 inmates were put to death over 8 days before the state's lethal injection drugs expired.
Well, a drowning death in the Pine Bluff Aquatic Center this week will keep the facility closed through the weekend. Mayor Vivian Flowers wants a review of safety procedures at the facility. City officials had hoped to reopen yesterday after a woman died there on Wednesday morning. A statement from the mayor's office said they expect to reopen now on Monday. Meanwhile, Fort Smith Police Chief Danny Baker is speaking for the first time since Officer Kyle Newman returned home from the hospital. Baker providing more insight into the shooting that left Newman fighting for his life. The chief says Newman came within seconds of dying after getting shot in the neck by a man he had pulled over. Body cam footage shows him passing out from blood loss almost immediately after the shooting. And despite the frightening days since, the chief says the outpouring of support has helped.
It was a catastrophic injury, one that most people do not survive.
Do you think this police department could feel the power of prayer coming from the community?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was one of the most humbling things that I saw.
Chief Baker says Officer Newman still has a long way to go in his recovery, but they are ready for a potential and hopeful return to the job.
Well, let's stay in Northwest Arkansas, where today Arvest Bank announced this year's Hunger Hero Award winner as part of its 16th annual Million Meals campaign. That title will go into God's Pantry in Garfield, but more importantly, bank leaders say more than $200,000 was raised, providing over 1 million meals at a time where children need it most.
We have a lot of people in the area that have food insecurity, and we want to help with that, make sure they have food for their children. School is out for the summer, so a lot of the kids need, a source of getting meals for that. School provides a lot of free meals for some of the children, so this is a great source for them to go out and get those meals for their kids.
Well, leaders say they hope it can help kids who continue to fight hunger at Arkansas, as Arkansas continues to rank among the most food insecure states in the country. Well, we're also doing our effort to help, of course, with our 26th annual summer cereal drive. Over the last 2 weeks, we've traveled all across Central Arkansas to collect boxes. But if you haven't donated yet, don't worry, you still can. Just text 501-276-1111 to learn more.
Well, coming up, the actor who danced with wolves and built a field of dreams helped celebrate the Arkansas outdoors today. What Kevin Costner shared with congressional lawmakers touring Hot Springs.
And a lot of storms that did produce a landspout tornado, a very brief tornado. That danger is over, but the storms are making their way towards Pulaski County, and I think the chance of rain and thunder is going up here in Little Rock as we go into the next hour or so. I'll have more on your weekend forecast coming up.